Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I'm coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a Germanic or Gaelic Celtic style village. It's going to be a very small little village. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have two thatch huts, basically. I'm going to have a cow pen and I'm going to have a pig pen, right? And we're going to make some hedges. We're going to have a tree. We're going to have some cows and pigs. And we're going to have a farmer, one, maybe more, if I decide to pull out my other. I've already washed all the models, and basically I am ready to go. This is a 7 base width template. I beveled the edges using a box knife, just like the Roman town that I uploaded. Now, because this is going to be a village, it's going to have less buildings. It's not going to be, it's going to be more rural. So I'm going to take this at a slightly different philosophy. I'm actually going to glue the buildings down. I'm going to glue the fencing down, the tree, the cows, the farmer. It's all going to be glued, and so they won't be able to be moved as you move troops through there. So it's going to be done at a slightly different philosophy. All right, and because of that, I want enough space between the fencing and the hedges and the buildings. I want there to be enough outer space that if I put a unit along the edge of the village, it'll be able to be stacked there without interfering with the buildings and everything else. Okay, so before we get started, I brought out my clippers. I'm going to have to go through and clip a lot of these edges of these fences so that they can be butted up against these other fences. So that's why I got the clippers out. The buildings, I wanted to kind of show you the layout of my village. We're going to have a couple of buildings right in there, and you can see that's quite a bit of space on the outside, right? And then we're going to put this cow pen is going to go like that, and this gate is going to go right there. So it's going to look approximately like that. Don't let me, it's not going to be perfect. And then I'm going to actually make hedges using this 3M scrub pad, and that hedge is going to go right along there, here, there, and there, all along this area. I'm just going to go 4 sides with the hedge. I'm going to put a gap in the hedge here, and I'm going to make a little gate using hobby sticks. We'll make a little gate. What I'm going to do is I got 6 pigs and 6 cows, and we'll put the cows in here and we'll put the pigs in there. I think the farmer is actually going to be in the cow pen, and then and that's what we're going to call it. Now, when I say I'm clipping, all I'm really doing is just trimming off any excess resin. Plus, I'm straightening it on the ends, if there's any kind of slope is not the word. If there's any kind, like if the resin went out like this, I'm going to cut it straight up and down so that I can put it right up against those fences. Same with this fence. Now these fences, they have two different ends. On one end, it's the fence just folded upon itself, but on the other end, there's actually a stick sticking up, like part of the frame. So what I've been trying to do is have one stick in each of the, connections. And also, once you paint it up and put all the texture and everything on there, these little corners are going to disappear. Okay, so I'm getting out a Germanic/Gaelic unit, right? And they look like this, right? But they do have the capability of going at a minimum of 2 base widths, right? So the Gaelic unit could be as deep as that, right? Which is 1.5 base widths, right? Because 40 millimeters is your base width, 20 millimeters is your depth, so 2 of those is 1 base width, and then 1 additional one is half. So 3 marks on this, right? So my thought was to make enough room to do 3 marks, right? So that I could have a unit there, and it would be considered right on the edge of the town or the village. See, something like that. So that's actually a perfect distance. Now with the fence where I've got it, you can see that it sticks out too far, right? Well, if I could get 2 bases, I could put my 3rd base back there, and there should be no problems with players saying, don't worry about it, that's perfectly legit, everything's good, right? So technically, only that front rank needs to be available, really, against the edge. Any other rank, even the 2nd rank, could be somewhere else, right? I could just say, like, okay, this guy is actually behind this guy, or something like that, because that's only 2 base widths. Now that gives me an incredibly large amount over on this side. It's almost 4 base widths. So my thought was slide it over enough Now, most likely your Germans aren't going to be fighting in this kind of a formation. They'll be fighting in the longer formation. I just want to I just want to what's the word? Account for everything. Yeah, see, that extends. So with that fence, there's no way to make it perfect. We definitely can make it so that 2 base widths, but that third base width is going to have, or the third base is going to have to be on the inside. You know? So I've decided to go with something like 2.5. So right about there. Now that pushes this pig pen too far this way. Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna have to suck it up. And go like that. Okay. So that units can deploy. Now this one's got more space than the others, but that's okay. So it's pretty close to exact. And then you can see that the buildings are pretty close to being online with the playable space here. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Draw the 4 corners. And then start gluing. Okay. What we'll do is we'll get started in that corner right there. And the reason why I'm gluing everything down on the jump is I'm just going to prime the entire model and paint it as one giant base. Actually a lot of glue Now I toyed with the idea of making it irregular, you know, like a circular, you know, put it together like something like that to make it like a circular pen or whatever. I still considered all that, but decided against it. Okay, that was too much glue. And as you can see, I'm using tacky glue. I'm sure that you could use any glue, Gorilla Clear Grip or E6000 or Elmer's. You could probably even use super glue or any kind of wood glue at all would work. It's going to take a moment to dry, of course. Now what I'd like to do is make hedges for pig pen. This length looks pretty good for this. Okay, so how tall do I want to make the hedge? Right? Do I want to make it super tall? No, I just want to make it up to maybe someone's abdomen or mid-chest, and I'm eyeballing it, of course. Let's do 2 of those. Hypothetically, let's say I put this on the back side like that. There's enough room, okay. That actually look okay. I put it right on the line here. Same with this guy. It's not going to be that long, obviously. And then here I'll cut. Okay. And I'm making a little walkway right there, so that and I do plan, when I do my texturing, to make a path through there. So there's going to be a path, because there's the gate, there's going to be a path, and then there's going to be a path going off here. And then, so it's basically going to be like that. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to go like maybe at an angle. That'd be good. Maybe an angle through there, and then here, and then maybe off at an angle. And then this is going to be, I'm going to take, I think I'm going to go on the inside. I guess it doesn't matter. Should do this. Okay. Now I do plan, once I prime everything, that's going to also prime this green hedge. And then I plan to, when I go to flock everything, I'm going to actually put some flock on the hedge to make it look more alive. Now I was thinking about getting a trough or making like a little trough or something like that for the pigs or the cows, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think they had those. I think they would go out there with buckets and throw feed. Okay. Now, of course, that's going to take quite a while to dry. So let's find where I want to place the huts. Do I want to trim them? I do not. Now I can go as close as I want or as far as I want, but I think I want to kind of balance it out. Okay, a base can go in there. That's fine. I could probably slide this down just a little bit, putting it on line with that. And that means I could probably get a base in there, and I could get a base in there if I had to. Now I'm going to glue all of the pigs and cows down before I prime it, but I'm not going to glue the tree in until after I prime it. And then I'm going to drill a hole and poke this down inside the hole very close to that fence. Alright guys, we are back with day 2, and the hedges are nice and dry and sturdy, and also the, what is that, a wicker fence is nice and sturdy. So I went through some of my Bowetta camp supplies, and I pulled out a barrel and a couple of baskets of food. I got my pin vise here for the tree, which we'll work on a little bit, and I've already gone through the pigs and the cows and clean them up a little bit. Okay, so first things first, we're going to put the cows in their pen, but I don't know exactly how I want to put them in their pen, so I mean, I could put them side by side, kind of just, I can put them in any way. And I was thinking of putting the Farmer Joe, in with the cows. If I do that, maybe the cows should be facing him, or, you know, giving him a little bit of, maybe something like that. I'm also leaving a little bit of space in the outer edges because, again, there might need to be figures placed there. So I want to make sure that now the inside, not so much, not worrying about it, just the outside edges. Now I also dug out one of my female civilians. I'm going to put her in the pig pen. with the pigs. Okay, and then I'm going to put a barrel on the edge of this hedge right there. There we go. And a food basket right beside it. I don't want to go all the way through the wood, but if I do, I wanted this underneath just in case. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, that's perfect right there. And then that's where I will glue that in. All right. Now, while we're waiting for those to dry, I got some balsa wood scraps that I'm going to make the little fence that I mentioned right here. Actually, I probably could do that now. I just need to make sure that I got the right gap here. So, using millimeters, 15 millimeters. Okay. And I'll straighten that up. Yep, that's right. I just need it to be dry enough that it sticks together. So I'm going to stop the video right now. I'm going to wait about 30 minutes and then I'll be right back. Okay, so this is dry enough. So let's go ahead and put it onto my pig pen. I don't know, I always like saying cow pen and pig pen, because cow pen's in the American War of Independence and pig pen from Peanuts. Okay. Get it all the way down to the ground. There we go.
And yes, it did press nice and tight against the hedge.
Okay, so while we wait for that to dry, this entire thing will have to get primed, and then I'm also going to have to go in and paint it. Now, I'm not going to paint it on camera. I'm going to, maybe I'll prime it and show you what it looks like fully primed, and then we'll transition into a fully painted, and then once it's painted, I'll go in and do the texturing and then the flocking. So we got to let this dry before I go to the next step. Alright, so as you can see, I went ahead and primed this. I used my standard brown, which is going to work really well with being natural, and plus it darkened the hedges. Hopefully the focus is good where you can see what's going on here. But you got the, okay, maybe that light is a little bit too stark. I don't know. Or not stark enough, I don't know. But you got your cow pin, you got your pig pin, and then you got your couple of huts. And then what I need to do now is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this completely, and then once it's painted, we'll come back and we'll texture the base and flock it, and we'll flock the hedges, and I'll put the tree in after I paint everything. That way it won't be so hard to paint. I don't have to paint around a tree. Alright, so once I get that painted, I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got the models painted. There currently is a wash on them, and that's why it looks kind of dark and wet, is because you could probably see some of the wash has dripped. Well, we're gonna, as the wash dries, I'm going to go ahead and put my texture on. Right, so the first thing we're going to do before we actually start putting our texture on, now what I'm going to be using is the medium brown for the pathways that I was going to be doing, and then all the urban area I'm going to be using dark earth. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this tree into its hole. Find the hole. Okay, there, I found the hole. Press it in so the glue can dry. Now we're going to start texturing. We're going to do the walkway pathway first. And I had also thought about this. I'm using a number 8 brush from Transon. It's actually pretty small. I don't want the path to, like, it's not a road, right? So it's not filling up the area, but there's going to be certain areas that it's not a beaten path. I'm gonna have some of the path off the beaten path? What am I trying to say? Like somebody might have walked around this way, or somebody might have walked around that way. So I am gonna path some of that as well. Maybe not a lot, you know, just, and And another thing, this is the first coat of the texture, so I'm going to be putting the dark texture on, and I can adjust any of the paths using the dark texture. Plus I can fill any gaps or whatever. So just by me putting a straight line doesn't mean that the path is going to be a straight line. This would have been a good piece of terrain if I had like a little ox cart. I could have put it in the corner and just had it sitting there. Now these huts, I don't know if you noticed, but they do have back doors. And again, these paths, they're not going to be straight. They're going to be curved. They're going to have, they're going to be uneven. It's just that this first layer is going on in a way that's going to make it easier for me to put the dark and make it a nice path. Okay, it looks like this is a little hindsight. I put this texture on pretty thin, and in certain areas it's actually soaking up into the MDF. So I'm going back over it with like a second layer. Dabbing it to get rid of any like brush stroke lines. Okay, we're going to let that medium brown dry before I go into the dark earth. Alright, so of course it's not completely dry just yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to apply the dark earth while the medium brown is starting to dry, so it'll blend. Okay, so like I said, I'm going along the sides here. Also, in the dark earth, there's going to be grass texture, but I'm not going to cover the entire dark earth. I'm going to give it a little bit of randomness. Okay, right now I'm just coating the gap between the walkway and the dirt at the base of the cow pen. So between the hedge and the walkway, Or I should say the path. It's not really a walkway or anything. Because I was planning on putting some splotches in the pathways anyway, so. I also do want to point something out. The AK, this texture is a lot more gritty. It has more grit than the Vallejo. Well, maybe not more, but it's some of the chunks are a lot thicker and heavier, giving you more of a rough look, or you know. Okay, so now on these paths, I kind of want to make them a little irregular. You know, giving me a little bit of a, not a zigzag per se, but like narrow, maybe a one-person pathway and not a, it's not a cart path, it's just a, it's just a path that goes around. Now this, I was thinking maybe it would be wide, because I'm sure he maybe gets cattle or walks them sometimes. Okay, now I wanted to put a little bit of dark brown in the pens as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry before I do any of the flocking or anything. Alright, so the texture has all dried, or at least mostly dried. I think I can see some wet spots, but that's okay, because there's only a few things I'm going to do before we get started. The first one is I'm going to flock the hedge. I recommend using a more vibrant, flowery color on hedges, and then use your whatever you normally use for your ground textures as a secondary flock. So you're not using the same flock on the ground and the hedge, even though you probably could do that. Okay, you can see that the Ulmers, because the scouring pad is porous, it's kind of soaking up soaking into the scouring pad, which is also okay. So I put some glue in a little tub here. Because just putting it on the top wasn't working for me. And if you miss a spot, it's okay, because remember, you primed the scouring pad, so think of it like the branches inside of a hedge. I only try to do the top 3/4, leave the bottom brown. Now we scoop up some of this flowery meadow. And I sprinkle it onto that glue. In excess, apparently. Okay, get all 4 sides, inside and out. Okay, and then I use a little bit of pressure to push the flock down into the glue from the top and the sides. Without, of course, breaking the hedge off of the board. Don't want to use too much pressure is what I'm trying to say. Alright. And then once you get that pressed in there, just empty it out. Okay, that looks like a disaster. Grab my soft bristle brush to clean off the non-hedge, non-glue areas. All right, now for the rest of this compound, I'm going to use the flock that I almost always use for my figures, which is the Knock 2.5 Static Grass Spring Meadow. And I took my Elmers and I mixed some additional water in to really thin it out. And I'm going to do the compound, the village, in sections. Bring Yeah, that's fine, I guess. So I don't know if you can get a good view of this. But I'm going to be painting the grass, the glue, so that the grass can adhere to this. But as you can see, I'm leaving some dirt clumps or dirt, yeah, so you can see the dark brown underneath as well. It's not all one connected piece. You don't see me brushing it. I'm actually kind of dabbing it on. And if some of it gets on the brown, which I'm deliberately putting it on the brown, the light brown that is, it's to give it like overgrown look. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with the first wave. Yep, I think that looks really good. Now in this static grass, there's also additional stones. It's actually a ballast from like model railroading, which look like little stones. So as I sprinkle, they might fall out and stick on the glue as well, or they might not. And it just basically gives it an additional texture. Okay, you can kind of see that this static grass is piled on here super thick. But guess what? I'm gonna dab it down into the glue. And then I'm going to shake it off. Then you get this random wildness. Now I'm not going to go over it with a brush because I don't want to ruin any of the grass. But I am going to clean around there so that I can dab on some more glue. Now I'm not worried with it actually sticking to the hedge. If it does, that's fine. It'll give the hedge kind of a two-tone look. Hard to hold because everything's covered in grass. Okay, so now I'm going to let that dry. Except for this part right here. All right, now it's clean. All right, so what I'll do now is I'm going to lay it on the table and we'll do some close-ups.